The billionaire offered $1 million to anyone who could make his daughter take a single bite. Top Michelin chefs failed. Psychologists quit. But then a waitress with $3 in her bank account did something that made the entire room gasp. She didn't serve the food. She didn't beg. She did the one thing strictly forbidden in a 5-star restaurant. What happened next didn't just save a girl's life, it exposed a dark family secret that money was trying to bury. You won't believe who the waitress actually was. Preston Halloway did not ask for things. He acquired them. As the CEO of Halloway Holdings, a conglomerate that owned half the skyline of Chicago and significant portions of the shipping industry in the Atlantic, Preston was a man who understood the physics of the world force equals mass times acceleration. If you had enough mass money, you could move anything. Except, apparently, the jaw of his 19-year-old daughter Jade. It was a Tuesday in November, the kind of biting, wind-swept evening that made the warmth of the obsidian room feel less like a restaurant and more like a sanctuary. The restaurant, located on the 42nd floor of the Waldorf Astoria, had been closed to the public. The velvet ropes were up, the reservations cancelled, the staff briefed with non-disclosure agreements that carried penalties higher than their cumulative annual salaries. Preston sat at the head of a mahogany table that could seat 20 but was currently set for 2. He checked his Patek Philippe watch. It was 7:15 p.m. She had not touched her water. "Jade," Preston said. His voice was a low rumble, the same tone he used to close mergers that put thousands out of work. "The chef de cuisine prepared the Dover sole exactly how you liked it, infirm. The butter is from Normandy. Eat." Jade Halloway sat opposite him. She was hauntingly beautiful, but in the way a ruined cathedral is beautiful, fragile, skeletal, and carrying the weight of a history that looked ready to collapse. Her collarbones pressed against her silk blouse like knives under a sheet. Her eyes, once a vibrant emerald that matched her name, were dull, staring fixedly at the center of the table where a silver candelabra flickered. She didn't blink. She didn't speak. She simply existed, a statue of defiance carved from bone. "I am not playing games tonight." Preston snapped, his patience fraying. He signaled to the sommelier, a man named Henri, who was currently sweating through his starch-stiffened collar. "Take this away. Bring the Wagyu." "Monsieur Halloway," Henri whispered. "The Wagyu needs to rest for..." "Bring it now." The staff of the obsidian room moved like ghosts. They were terrified. Rumors had circulated the kitchen all afternoon. They said Jade hadn't eaten a full meal in 3 months. They said Preston had hospitalized her twice, force-fed her through tubes. But the moment the tubes were out, the starvation resumed. It wasn't just anorexia, the whispers went. It was a strike, a protest. But against what Preston looked at his daughter, his heart clenching with a mixture of rage and a terrifying, unfamiliar impotence. He loved her. He loved her more than the portfolio, more than the Hampton estate, more than the memory of his late wife, Catherine. But he didn't know how to love her softly. He only knew how to fix problems, and Jade was becoming a problem that defied logic. "Is this about the boy?" Preston asked, leaning forward. "The musician I told you. Jade, he was using you for the trust fund. I did you a favor by running him off." Jade's finger twitched. That was the only sign she was listening. "Or is this about art school?" Preston continued, cutting into the silence. "You want to paint? Fine. I'll buy you a gallery. I'll buy you the damn building. Just pick up the fork." "Nothing." Preston slammed his hand on the table. The silverware rattled. "Damn it, Jade, I am the most powerful man in this city, and I cannot watch my only child wither away into dust. What do you want? Name it." Jade finally looked up. Her voice was dry, cracking like autumn leaves. "I want you to stop buying the world, Dad, and I want to go home. This is home. Chicago is home." "No," she whispered. "Home is where Mum was. You sold that house 3 weeks ago." Preston stiffened. It was too big. Too many memories. We needed to move on. "You needed to move on," Jade corrected her voice, dropping to a whisper. "I needed to grieve." She looked back down at the empty plate. "I'm not hungry." Preston's face turned a shade of crimson that matched the drapes. He stood up, adjusting his suit jacket. He turned to the shadows where the maitre d', a man named Gustav, stood trembling. "Gustav." "Yes, Mr. Halloway." "This food is garbage. It's uninspired. That's why she's not eating. It lacks soul." Preston was grasping at straws, blaming the only variable he could control. "Clear the kitchen. Everyone. The executive chef, the sous chefs. Get them out of my sight." "But sir, who will cook?" Preston's eyes were cold. "I don't care. Find someone else. I'm offering a bounty. $100,000. Cash. Tonight." Gustav blinked. "Sir, $100,000 to any member of your staff. Cook, busboy, dishwasher. I don't give a damn who can put a plate of food in front of my daughter that she will actually eat. Go." The challenge rippled through the back of the house like an electric shock. But in the dish pit, a young woman named Mia Collins was too busy scraping béarnaise sauce off fine china to notice the commotion. She was trying to figure out how to steal a bread roll without getting caught. Mia Collins was invisible. In the hierarchy of the obsidian room, she was lower than the busboys. She was a runner and a polisher, which meant her job was to carry heavy trays up the stairs and ensure that no water spots remained on the crystal glasses. She was 22, the same age as Jade Halloway, but their lives were located on different planets. Mia lived in a 2005 Honda Civic parked in a Walmart lot off the I-90. Her apartment was a pile of blankets in the back seat and a gym membership she kept solely for the showers. Her mother was in a rehabilitation center in Ohio, a facility that cost $3,000 a month money. Mia sent every single check, leaving herself with barely enough for gas and ramen. She was hungry, not the metaphorical hunger of ambition that the managers spoke about in pre-shift meetings. She was physiologically painfully hungry. She hadn't eaten a solid meal in 48 hours. The smell of the rich, butter-laden French food in the kitchen was a constant, dizzying torture. "Mia, wake up!" Mia snapped her head up. Todd, the assistant manager, was looming over her. He was a petty tyrant with a gelled comb-over and a breath that smelled of stale coffee. "Sorry, Todd. Just the steam." "Mr. Halloway has fired the line." Todd hissed his eyes wide with panic. "He's offering $100,000 to anyone who can feed the girl. The sous chef tried a risotto and she didn't look at it. The pastry chef sent out a gold leaf soufflé and she pushed it off the table." Mia wiped her hands on her apron. "Okay, what does that have to do with me? I have 4 racks of glasses to polish." "Everyone is trying," Todd said. "Even the dishwasher is making a grilled cheese sandwich right now. You're going out there." "Me?" Mia laughed, a short, dry sound. "I can't cook, Todd. I burn toast." "You don't have to cook. The challenge is open to servers too. Maybe it's the presentation. Maybe she needs a woman's touch." "I don't know." Todd was sweating. "Mr. Halloway is threatening to buy the building and evict the restaurant if we don't fix this. You need to take something out there." Mia looked at the chaos in the kitchen. Professional chefs were weeping in the walk-in fridge. The line cooks were frantically throwing ingredients into pans, truffles, caviar, foie gras, trying to create the most expensive, irresistible bites imaginable. Mia felt a cramp in her stomach. $100,000. That money would pay for her mum's rehab for 3 years. It would get her out of the car. It would buy her a winter coat. She walked over to the prep station. There was nothing left but discarded ends of vegetables and rejected cuts of meat. The chefs were hoarding the good stuff. Mia looked at a small stainless steel pot on the back burner. It wasn't part of the menu. It was the family meal, the cheap stew the staff was supposed to eat before the shift, but nobody had time to touch it tonight because of the VIP lockdown. It was a simple potato and leek soup. Cheap, watery, bland, but it was warm. Mia grabbed a ladle. "What are you doing?" Todd sneered. "That's slop. You can't serve the billionaire's daughter slop." "She's not eating the gold, Todd," Mia said softly, her voice trembling slightly. "Maybe she's tired of the gold." Mia poured the soup into a simple white bowl. No garnish, no truffles, no drizzle of oil, just steam and the smell of boiled potatoes. It smelled like the kitchen of a house that wasn't trying to impress anyone. She put the bowl on a tray. Her hands were shaking. She wasn't shaking because of the billionaire. She was shaking because the smell of the soup was making her lightheaded. She wanted to drink it right there. She wanted to lift the bowl to her lips and drain it. Focus, Mia. The money. She pushed through the swinging double doors and stepped into the dining room. The atmosphere was heavy, suffocating. Preston Halloway was pacing near the window, barking into a cell phone. Jade was still sitting at the table, looking like a prisoner on death row. Mia walked toward the table. Her shoes were cheap non-slips from Walmart, scuffed and worn. Her uniform was a size too big, hanging off her thin frame. Preston stopped pacing. He lowered his phone. He looked at Mia and then at the pathetic white bowl on her tray. "What is this?" Preston asked, his voice dripping with disdain. "I asked for excellence. You bring me peasant food? It's potato soup, sir." Mia said, her voice quiet but steady. "Did I ask for potato soup? No, sir. But you asked for her to eat." Preston scoffed. "Get it out of here. If she won't eat Wagyu beef, she certainly won't eat that." Mia didn't move. She looked at Jade. For the first time all night, Jade's eyes shifted. She looked away from the candle and looked at Mia. Maybe it was the cheap uniform. Maybe it was the dark circles under Mia's eyes circles that mirrored Jade's own. Maybe it was the fact that Mia wasn't trembling with fear like the others. "Let her leave it," Jade said. It was the first time she had spoken in an hour. Preston froze. He looked at his daughter, then at Mia. He waved his hand dismissively. "Fine, put it down, then leave." Mia set the bowl down in front of Jade. The steam rose up, curling around Jade's face. "I'm not going to eat it," Jade whispered to Mia. "You're wasting your time. You won't get the money." Mia stood there. She didn't retreat to the kitchen. She looked at the soup, then at Jade. "I know you're not going to eat it," Mia said. Preston stepped forward. "Excuse me, if you know she won't eat it, why are you here?" Mia ignored the billionaire. She looked only at the girl. She saw the pain in Jade's eyes, the deep, cavernous loneliness. But she also saw something else, privilege. A privilege so immense that Jade could afford to use food as a weapon while Mia was using every ounce of her willpower not to faint from hunger. A sudden hot flash of anger mixed with desperation seized Mia. The unbelievable act wasn't a calculated strategy. It was an impulse born of starvation. "You're not going to eat it," Mia repeated. "And that's a crime." Mia reached out. She didn't take the bowl away. She picked up the spoon. The room went silent. Henri the sommelier gasped. Gustave the maitre d' took a step forward, ready to intervene. A waitress eating the guest's food. It was immediate termination. It was social suicide. Mia didn't care. She dipped the spoon into the soup and lifted it to her own lips. She ate. She didn't sip politely. She swallowed the hot liquid with a guttural sound of relief. She took another spoonful. And another. She wasn't tasting the potatoes. She was tasting survival. Preston Halloway watched his mouth slightly open. He had never seen anyone eat with such raw, unadulterated need. Maya slammed the spoon down into the empty bowl. She wiped her mouth with the back of her hand, breaking every rule of etiquette in the book. She looked Jade dead in the eye. "It's warm," Mia said, her voice raspy, "and it stops the shaking. Do you know what it feels like when your body starts to eat its own muscle because you can't afford bread? Do you know what it's like to sleep in a Honda Civic when it's 20 degrees out, dreaming of a bowl of this?" Mia pointed a shaking finger at the empty bowl. "You're starving because you're sad," Mia said, tears finally welling in her eyes. "I'm starving because I'm poor. We are both dying, but only one of us has a choice." Mia turned to Preston, who was stunned into silence. "I'm sorry, sir. I'll clear out my locker." She turned around and began to walk away. Her shoulders slumped, the adrenaline fading into shame. She had just eaten a customer's food and yelled at a billionaire's daughter. She was done. "Wait." The voice was soft, but it carried across the room. Mia stopped. Jade Halloway reached out. Her hand, trembling like a leaf in the wind, picked up her own fork. She reached across the table toward the bread basket that had been sitting untouched for 2 hours. She took a roll. She looked at Mia's back. "Come back," Jade whispered. "Please." The silence in the obsidian room was no longer heavy. It was brittle, liable to shatter at the slightest sudden movement. Preston Halloway stood frozen, his hand halfway to his wallet, his mouth slightly agape. He was a man who commanded boardrooms and negotiated international trade deals, yet he was paralyzed by the sight of his daughter holding a sourdough roll. Jade's hand trembled violently. Her knuckles were white, the skin stretching tight over the bone. She didn't look at her father. She didn't look at the terrified staff peeking out from the kitchen doors. She looked only at Mia. Mia, still breathless from her outburst, and the sudden influx of hot soup into her empty stomach, felt a wave of dizziness. The adrenaline was crashing. The reality of what she had just done, stealing food, shouting at a VIP, humiliating a billionaire, was setting in. But she couldn't look away from Jade. Jade brought the bread to her lips. She took a bite. It was a small bite, tiny, but she chewed. She swallowed. A collective exhale swept through the room. Henri the sommelier actually crossed himself. "Another," Mia whispered. She didn't command. She pleaded. "Please, just one more." Jade's eyes filled with tears. "It hurts," she whispered back. "I know," Mia said, stepping closer, ignoring the boundaries of class and employment. "Your stomach has shrunk. It feels like swallowing glass. But the shaking stops. Trust me, the shaking stops." Jade took another bite. Then she reached for the spoon Moore had used. She dipped it into the remaining sludge of the potato soup, the soup Maya had contaminated with her own mouth, and ate it. Preston Halloway made a noise in his throat, an instinctive protest against the hygiene, but he choked it down. He watched as his daughter ate 3 spoonfuls of soup and half a bread roll. It was more calories than she had consumed in the last 10 days combined. When Jade finally dropped the spoon exhausted, she looked at Mia with a strange intensity. "You live in a car?" Mia nodded, shame flushing her cheeks. "It's a Civic. It's reliable. And your mother, she's sick. Addiction." Mia said the truth, tumbling out because she had nothing left to lose. "The rehab facility is in Ohio. Cedar Springs Recovery. It costs everything I make." Jade nodded slowly. She turned to her father. "Dad." Preston rushed to the table. "Jade, sweetheart, I can get you anything else. The Wagyu A smoothie. Anything." "No," Jade said softly. I want her. Preston blinked. Excuse me, I want her to stay, Jade said, pointing at Mia. I don't want the doctors with their clipboards. I don't want the chefs with their egos. I want her. She knows. She knows what? She knows what empty feels like. Preston straightened up. The businessman was back. He turned his cold, calculating gaze toward Mia. He assessed her like a distressed asset he was about to acquire. He saw the frayed hem of her trousers, the scuffed shoes, the desperation in her posture. What is your name? Preston asked. Mia. Mia Collins. Miss Collins, Preston said, pulling a checkbook from his jacket pocket. You have performed a miracle tonight. I promised $100,000 to the person who could make my daughter eat. I am a man of my word. He uncapped a gold fountain pen and scribbled furiously. He ripped the check out and held it toward her. Mia stared at the piece of paper. The number was staggering. It was freedom. It was her mother's recovery. It was an apartment with heat. She reached out her fingers, brushing the stiff paper. But before she could take it, the room tilted. The floor seemed to rush up to meet her. The edges of her vision turned black, sparkling with white lights. The heat of the soup, the stress, the lack of sleep, and the sudden release of tension were too much for her malnourished body. Miss Collins? Preston's voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. Mia's knees buckled. She didn't feel the impact when she hit the plush carpet. The last thing she saw was Jade Halloway jumping up from her chair, screaming her name before the darkness swallowed her whole. When Mia woke up, she wasn't in her car. She wasn't in the back of the restaurant, and she wasn't in a jail cell. She was lying on a bed that felt like a cloud. The sheets were Egyptian cotton, cool and smooth against her skin. The air smelled of lavender and antiseptic. She blinked, trying to orient herself. The room was massive, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan. It was a gray, overcast Chicago morning, but inside everything was warm. She tried to sit up, but a gentle hand pushed her shoulder back down. Careful, your blood sugar was critically low. Mia turned her head. A man in a white coat was adjusting an IV drip connected to her arm. He wasn't a hospital doctor. He didn't have a badge. He looked like a private physician. This was Dr. Alistair Kovacs, a name whispered among Chicago's elite for his discretion. Where am I? Mia croaked. You are in the guest wing of the Halloway penthouse. A deep voice boomed from the doorway. Preston Halloway stood there. He wasn't wearing his suit jacket. He looked tired holding a mug of coffee. He walked into the room and sat in a leather armchair near the bed. You fainted, Preston said. My security team wanted to call an ambulance, but Jade insisted we bring you here. Doctor, Kovacs has given you fluids and a vitamin cocktail. You were severely dehydrated and malnourished. Mia sat up, panic gripping her chest. My car. I have to move my car. They tow if you're parked at Walmart for more than 24 hours. Preston waved a hand dismissively. My driver picked up your vehicle. It's in my garage. And I had your belongings brought up. Although frankly, Miss Collins, you need new belongings. Mia felt exposed, naked. This man had gone through her car. He had seen the pile of dirty laundry, the half-empty bottles of water, the shame of her existence. I need to leave, Mia said, reaching for the IV tape. The check is on the nightstand, Preston said. Mia froze. She looked to her right. There it was, $100,000. Take it, Preston said. You earned it. Jade ate a yogurt this morning. She asked if you were awake yet. Mia looked at the check, then at Preston. Why am I here, Mr. Halloway? You paid me. Transaction over. Preston stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the grey city below. Because my daughter hasn't spoken to me in 3 months, Miss Collins. Last night she spoke to you. She ate because of you. I don't know what kind of street magic you pulled, but it worked." He turned back to her. "I have a proposition. I'm a waitress, not a babysitter. I don't need a babysitter. I have nurses. I have security. I need a companion." Preston struggled with the word. "Jade is drowning. I can't reach her. I buy her things, she breaks them. I hire doctors, she lies to them. But you are damage, and apparently damage recognizes damage." Preston leaned in, his eyes narrowing. "I will pay you $10,000 a week, plus room and board here. I will pay for your mother's treatment at Cedar Springs directly. I'm on the board of the parent company. I can ensure she gets the VIP wing. All expenses paid." Mia's heart hammered against her ribs. 10,000 a week. VIP treatment for her mum. It was a deal with the devil, but the devil was offering heaven. "What do I have to do?" "Just be here," Preston said. "Eat meals with her. Talk to her. Make sure she doesn't die. My goal is to get her weight up to a healthy level so we can manage her future." "Manage her future?" Mia asked, catching the strange phrasing. "Just get her to eat," Preston said, his tone final. "Do we have a deal?" Mia looked at the IV in her arm. She thought of the freezing cold nights in the Honda Civic. She thought of her mother's voice on the phone, slurring, begging for help. "Deal," Mia whispered. Preston nodded, satisfied. "Good. Dr. Kovacs will clear you in an hour. Jade is in the solarium. Don't disappoint me, Miss Collins. I can make you rich, but I can also make you disappear back into that parking lot faster than you can blink." The Halloway penthouse was a fortress of glass and steel. It occupied the top 3 floors of the Halloway Tower. It had a private elevator, a heated pool, and a staff of 6 who moved silently through the corridors. Mia was given a room that was bigger than her childhood home. She was given a credit card for essentials, which she used to buy jeans that didn't have holes and sweaters that actually retained heat. For the first week it was awkward. Jade treated Mia like a stray cat she had adopted, but didn't know how to pet. They sat in the solarium, a glass-walled room filled with exotic orchids, watching the snow fall over Chicago. "Why do you hate him?" Mia asked on the 4th day. They were sitting on the floor sharing a plate of sliced apples and peanut butter. It was the only thing Jade agreed to eat that day. Jade looked at the door to ensure they were alone. "I don't hate him. I'm scared of him. Scared he's your dad. He seems intense, but he clearly loves you. He's paying me a fortune just to sit here and eat apples with you." Jade laughed, a bitter, sharp sound. "He loves owning things, Mia. He loved my mother, too. Until she became inconvenient." Mia paused, an apple slice halfway to her mouth. "He said she died. Cancer, right?" Jade's eyes went dark. She leaned in close, her voice dropping to a whisper. "That's the official story. Ovarian cancer. Quick. Painless. And the truth? Mum was spirited. She wanted a divorce. She found out things about the company. Illegal shipping routes. Bribes. She was going to go to the FBI. Jade's hands started trembling again. Then suddenly she's sick. Dr. Kovacs moves into the house. No visitors. 2 weeks later she's dead. Closed casket. Cremated before I could even say goodbye. Mia felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. "Jade, Are you saying he killed her?" "I'm saying she was fine." Jade insisted, her eyes wide and frantic. "She was playing tennis the week before, and then she's gone, and Dad sells the house immediately, destroys her art studio, burns her journals." Jade grabbed Mia's wrist. Her grip was surprisingly strong. "I stopped eating because it's the only thing he can't control. If I die, His perfect image is ruined. He can't bribe death. I'm holding myself hostage, Mia, because I know he did something to her." Mia looked at the girl, the poor little rich girl, who she had judged just days ago. She realized now that the hunger wasn't a vanity project. It was a hunger strike. It was a scream for justice. "Do you have proof?" Mia asked. "No." Jade slumped back. "He scrubbed everything. But there's one place, the study. He keeps a safe behind the abstract painting. I know he keeps the real files there, the blackmail files." Mia looked at the security camera blinking in the corner of the ceiling. She realized then that she hadn't just moved into a luxury apartment. She had moved into a crime scene. Weeks passed. To the outside world and to Preston, it looked like progress. Mia had coaxed Jade into eating small meals, scrambled eggs, soup toast. Jade had gained 4 pounds. Preston was ecstatic. He even invited Mia to dinner with him one night, praising her influence. But under the surface, a conspiracy was brewing. Mia and Jade developed a system. When they were in rooms with cameras, which was almost everywhere, they talked about music, fashion, or the weather. They played the part of the recovering heiress and her paid companion. But in the bathroom with the shower running, to drown out audio bugs, they planned. "He's going to the gala on Friday," Jade whispered, sitting on the edge of the marble tub while Mia pretended to blow-dry her hair. "The annual shipping charity ball. He has to be there. It's his biggest night. He'll be gone from 6:00 p.m. to midnight." "Security will still be here," Mia said. "Only downstairs," Jade countered. "The personal guard Brutus usually stays by the elevator. If we can get into the study, we have a 6-hour window. And the combination, I don't have it, but I know he changes it to dates. It used to be my birthday, then his anniversary." Jade chewed her lip. "Try the day the company went public, or the day Mom died." Mia felt sick. She was risking everything. If she was caught, she wouldn't just lose the job. Preston Halloway was a man who could plant drugs in her car and send her to prison for 20 years. But every time she looked at Jade, she saw the ghost of a mother she couldn't save. Mia was saving her own mother with Preston's money, but she could only save Jade with the truth. Friday arrived with a blizzard. The wind howled against the glass of the penthouse, turning the city into a white blur. Preston appeared in the foyer at 5:45 p.m., wearing a tuxedo that cost more than a house. He looked regal and terrifying. "Jade, you look better," he said, touching his daughter's cheek. She flinched, but only slightly. "Mia, keep her company. I'll be back late." "Have a good time, sir," Mia said, forcing a smile. The elevator doors slid shut. They waited 10 minutes, then 20. "Okay," Jade whispered. "Brutus is in the lobby watching the monitors. We have to be quiet." They crept down the hallway to the study. It was a massive room, lined with mahogany bookshelves and smelling of cigars and leather. The heavy oak doors were locked, but Jade produced a key. "Where did you get that?" Mia whispered. "I stole it from the housekeeper's ring while she was changing my sheets." Jade smirked. A spark of life was returning to her eyes. They slipped inside. The room was dark, lit only by the city lights outside. Jade moved to the massive abstract painting on the north wall, a chaotic swirl of red and black. She pulled the frame. It swung open on hidden hinges. There it was. A brushed steel safe. "Okay," Mia said, her hands sweating. "Dates." She tried Jade's birthday, June 14th, 2002. Red light. She tried Preston's birthday, November 2nd, 75. Red light. She tried the date Catherine Halloway died, September 22nd, 25. Red light. "Damn it," Jade hissed. "He knows I know those dates." Mia stared at the keypad. "Think, Jade. What matters to him? Not people, wins, acquisitions. The merger, Jade suggested. The Atlantic deal. It was the biggest deal of his life. It happened 3 years ago. Date, August 12th. Mia punched in 08-12-23. The light blinked green. A heavy click echoed in the room. "You're a genius," Jade gasped. Mia pulled the handle. The heavy door swung open. Inside there were stacks of cash velvet boxes containing jewelry and a row of black leather binders. Jade grabbed the binders. She opened the first one. Bank accounts, offshore holdings. Boring. Mia reached into the back of the safe. Her hand brushed against a small velvet pouch and a plain manila envelope that was taped to the bottom of the shelf as if to hide it from a casual glance. "Jade," Mia whispered. "Look at this." She pulled the envelope out. It had no writing on it. She tore the seal. Inside were photographs. Grainy black and white photographs. Mia looked at the first one and gasped. It showed a woman sitting in a wheelchair in a garden, surrounded by high fences. The woman looked frail, her hair cut short, but she was unmistakably Preston Halloway. The timestamp on the photo was from 2 weeks ago. "Oh my God," Jade choked out, snatching the photo. "Mum, she's alive." "Keep looking," Mia urged, pulling out a document from the envelope. It was a medical intake form for a facility called Sanctum Wellness, located in Switzerland. Patient Jane Doe, Preston Halloway. Condition-induced comatose state / chemically restrained. Authorized by Preston Halloway. Reason psychological instability / threat to corporate security. Jade fell to her knees, the paper crinkling in her grip. "He didn't kill her. He locked her away. He's keeping her drugged in Switzerland so she can't talk." "He faked her death," Mia said, horror dawning on her. "The cremation, the closed casket, it was all a lie." Suddenly a sound cut through the silence. Beep, beep, beep. It wasn't the safe. It was the electronic lock on the study door. Someone was entering the code. "He's back," Jade whispered, her face draining of color. "He's not supposed to be back." Mia scrambled to shove the papers back into the envelope. "Close the safe. Put the picture in your pocket." Jade slammed the safe door shut and swung the painting back in place. But they were too slow. The heavy oak doors of the study swung open. It wasn't Preston. It was Dr. Kovacs, and behind him stood Brutus the security guard. Dr. Kovacs wasn't holding a stethoscope. He was holding a syringe. "I told Mr. Halloway that hiring a street rat was a liability," Kovacs said smoothly, his voice devoid of any medical warmth. "But he insisted you were good for morale." Brutus stepped into the room, blocking the exit. He was 6'5" of muscle. "What do we do with them?" Brutus asked, his voice a low rumble. Kovacs tapped the syringe. "Jade has had a relapse, a terrible psychotic break. She became violent. And her poor companion. Well, it seems Miss Collins was caught stealing from the safe, and in the ensuing struggle fell out of the window." Mia backed up against the desk, grabbing a heavy crystal ashtray. Her heart was beating so fast it hurt. "You can't cover this up," Mia shouted, trying to sound braver than she was. "We saw the file. We know Preston is alive." Kovacs sighed. "My dear, knowledge is only power if you live long enough to share it." He nodded to Brutus. "Grab the girl, the waitress first." Brutus lunged. Brutus moved with the terrifying speed of a man who enjoyed violence. He didn't reach for a weapon. His hands were the weapons. He lunged across the mahogany desk, his massive fingers hooking into the fabric of Mia's oversized sweater. Mia didn't think. She reacted. It was the same reflex she had honed over 4 years of dodging drunk patrons in dive bars and avoiding scalding soup spills in crowded kitchens. She dropped her center of gravity, twisting violently to the left. The wool of her sweater tore with a sickening rip, but she was free. "Jade, run!" Mia screamed, grabbing the heavy crystal decanter of 50-year-old cognac from the sideboard. Jade was frozen, her eyes locked on Dr. Kovacs, who was advancing with the syringe, a pitying smile on his face. Now, Jade. It's just a little pinch. Then you'll sleep, and we can fly you to join your mother." The mention of her mother snapped Jade out of her paralysis. The frail, starving girl vanished. In her place was a daughter fueled by a rage that had been fermenting for 3 years. Jade grabbed a heavy brass statue of Atlas from the shelf and swung it. She didn't aim for Kovacs. She was too weak to fight him. She aimed for the window. Crash. The statue didn't break the reinforced storm glass, but it cracked it. The sound was like a gunshot in the enclosed room. Brutus roared and turned toward Jade. This was Mia's chance. "Hey, meathead!" Mia yelled. Brutus turned back just in time to see the crystal decanter flying at his face. He swatted it away, but the glass shattered against his forearm, drenching him, and the expensive Persian rug in high-proof alcohol. Mia didn't hesitate. She grabbed the silver table lighter, the one Preston used for his Cuban cigars, flicked the flint and threw it onto the rug. Whoosh! The fumes ignited instantly. A wall of blue and orange flame erupted between the women and the men. The fire wasn't big enough to kill, but it was big enough to panic. "Fire!" Kovacs shrieked, backing away as the flames licked at his trousers. The penthouse's advanced safety systems kicked in within seconds. A deafening alarm blared. "Whoop! Whoop! Evacuate!" Then came the hiss. The overhead sprinklers detonated, dumping gallons of water into the room. "The door!" Mia shouted, grabbing Jade's hand. The electronic locks disengage on a fire alarm. It was true. The heavy oak doors clicked and popped open. Preston's security paranoia had a fail-safe. You couldn't trap people in a burning building. Mia and Jade scrambled into the hallway, slipping on the wet marble. Behind them, Brutus was charging through the steam and smoke, coughing his eyes red with fury. "The elevator is locked down." Jade gasped, coughing as the water soaked her thin clothes. "We have to take the stairs." "Can you make it?" Mia asked, looking at Jade's fragile legs. "I have to." Jade gritted out. They burst into the stairwell. 42 floors. They ran. For the first 10 flights, adrenaline carried them. Mia held Jade's arm, guiding her half, carrying her around the sharp concrete corners. The sound of heavy boots echoed from the floors above. Brutus was coming. By the 20th floor, Jade's breathing was a ragged whistle. Her legs, atrophied from months of starvation, were failing. "I can't," Jade wheezed, collapsing onto the landing of the 22nd floor. "Leave me. Take the envelope. Go to the police." Mia looked at the envelope in Jade's pocket, the proof of Catherine's life. Then she looked at the girl. "I am a waitress." "Jade," Mia said, her chest heaving. "I carry trays with 6 plates of steak and potatoes up and down stairs for 12 hours a shift. I don't drop things." Mia crouched down. "Get on my back." "Mia, no." "Get on." Jade climbed on. She was light, terrifyingly light, like a bird made of hollow bones. Mia gritted her teeth, stood up, and began the descent. Thump, thump, thump. The boots above were getting closer. Mia's quads burned. Her lungs felt like they were filled with broken glass. She counted the steps. 1, 2, 3. Don't trip. 4, 5. They reached the lobby level, but Mia didn't stop. The lobby would be swarming with Preston's men. She kicked open the door marked "Service Only" and spilled into the back corridors of the hotel, the labyrinth of kitchens, laundry rooms, and loading docks, the world of the invisible workers. She collapsed against a wall of linen carts, sliding Jade gently to the floor. "Well, well," a voice said. "Looks like someone ordered the escape special." Mia looked up, terrified. It was Todd, the annoying assistant manager with the bad comb-over. He was holding a clipboard, standing next to Gustav, the maitre d'. "Todd!" Mia gasped. "Please, they're trying to kill us." Todd looked at the soaking wet waitress and the billionaire's daughter. He looked at the bruises on Mia's arm. He looked at the terror in Jade's eyes. Then he looked down the hall where 2 security guards in suits were running toward them, shouting into radios. Todd, the man who cared more about napkin folds than human beings, did something unexpected. He pushed a laundry cart in front of Mia and Jade. "In!" he hissed. "Now!" They scrambled into the canvas cart, burying themselves under piles of dirty tablecloths that smelled of wine and sauce. "Hey!" one of the guards shouted, skidding to a halt. Did you see 2 girls run past here?" Mia held her breath, her hand clamped over Jade's mouth. "2 girls." Todd's voice was bored nasally. "Yeah. Ran out the loading dock door. About 30 seconds ago. You better hurry, they looked fast." The guard swore and sprinted past the laundry cart, bursting out the exit door into the snowy alley. Todd kicked the brake on the cart. "Coast is clear. You owe me big time, Collins." Mia poked her head out. "Todd, why?" "Because Preston Halloway tipped me $5 on a $10,000 bill last Christmas." Todd scoffed. "And because nobody messes with my staff but me. Go. Take the freight elevator to the garage. Gustav has his van there." Gustav, the stiff, terrifying maitre d', stepped forward and tossed Mia a set of keys. "It is the grey Ford. It is not a luxury vehicle, but it will drive." "Thank you," Jade whispered, peeking out from the linens. "Mademoiselle Halloway." Gustav bowed slightly, as if she were sitting at table 1. "It was an honor to serve you the potato soup. Now go." The annual shipping charity gala was the event of the season. It was held in the grand ballroom of the Palmer House, Hilton, a venue dripping with gold leaf crystal chandeliers and the hypocrisy of the ultra-wealthy. Preston Halloway stood at the podium. He looked impeccable in a fresh tuxedo. He was the picture of a grieving, devoted father and a philanthropic genius. Behind him, a massive screen displayed the logo of his foundation, the Catherine Halloway Initiative for Mental Health. "My wife," Preston, said his voice, choking with practiced emotion, was a light extinguished too soon by the darkness of the mind. And now my daughter Jade fights that same darkness. It is for them that I donate $5 million tonight. Applause thundered through the room. Men in tuxedos nodded solemnly. Women in diamonds dabbed at dry eyes. In the shadows of the service entrance, Mia and Jade watched. They hadn't run away. They hadn't gone to the police station, where Preston undoubtedly had the captain on speed dial. They had come here. They had used Gustav's van to drive to the Palmer house. They had used Mia's old uniform, which she still had in her trunk, to blend in with the catering staff. Jade was no longer the trembling girl in the tower. She was wearing oversized catering trousers and a white button-down shirt that swallowed her frame. Her hair was slicked back. She looked like a ghost, but a ghost with a mission. "Are you ready?" Mia whispered. Jade clutched the manila envelope. Her hands were steady. "He locked my mother in a box, Mia. He tried to kill you. I'm not hungry anymore. I'm ready to feast." "Okay," Mia said. "On my signal." Mia signaled to Henri. "Yes, Henri. The sommelier from the Obsidian Room was here too, managing the wine service for the gala." The invisible army of service workers talked. They knew. And they were tired of Preston Halloway. Henry nodded from the tech booth. He had relieved the audio technician for a bathroom break. On stage, Preston raised a glass. "To family. To family." The crowd roared. Screech! The audio feedback loop was deafening. The crowd covered their ears. The massive screen behind Preston flickered, the logo dissolving. "What is going on?" Preston snapped, looking at the tech booth. Then the image changed. It wasn't a logo, it was a photograph. The photograph of Preston Halloway, frail and drugged in the Swiss garden. Gasps rippled through the room. "What is that?" someone whispered. "Is that Catherine?" Preston turned around. The colour drained from his face so fast it looked like his blood had evaporated. He stumbled back, knocking over the podium. "Turn it off, cut the power." "No!" A voice rang out. It wasn't amplified by a microphone, but it cut through the silence like a knife. Jade walked out from the service wings. She walked right up the center aisle. She looked small, gaunt, and undeniably damaged. But she walked with her head high. "Jade!" Preston whispered, his voice, picked up by the lapel mic he forgot was on. "Jade, honey, you're sick. You're confused." "I was sick, Dad," Jade said, climbing the stairs to the stage. She stood next to him, looking out at the hundreds of people. "I was starving myself because I thought I was crazy. I thought I imagined Mum screaming that night you took her away." She pointed at the screen. "But I wasn't crazy. You didn't cremate her. You locked her away in the Sanctum Wellness Center in Zurich to keep her from exposing your illegal dumping in the Atlantic." "Lies!" Preston shouted, lunging for her. "She's having a psychotic episode, security." But before Preston could touch her, a figure stepped between them. Mia Collins. Mia wasn't wearing a tuxedo. She was wearing her dirty, torn waiter's uniform. She shoved Preston Halloway, the billionaire, the titan, hard in the chest. "Don't touch her!" Mia snarled. "Who are you?" Preston spat, looking at the daring waitress. "I'm the girl you paid to make her eat," Mia said into the microphone, grabbing it from the stand. "And you know what she's finally full. She's had enough of your lies." Mia pulled a USB drive from her pocket. This drive contains the intake forms the bank transfers to the Swiss clinic and the doctor's logs. Henri has already sent a copy to the Chicago Tribune, the New York Times, and the FBI Cybercrimes Division. Sirens began to wail in the distance. Real sirens. Preston looked at the crowd. He saw judgment. He saw ruin. He looked at the side exit, but Brutus wasn't there. Brutus had fled the moment the screen changed. Preston Halloway slumped. The mass had finally met an acceleration it couldn't stop. Jade turned to Mia. In front of the flashing cameras and the stunned elite, Jade smiled. It was a real smile. "I think," Jade said into the sudden silence, "I'd like a cheeseburger now." 6 months later. The restaurant was called The Green Glass. It was a small bistro in the West Loop. It didn't serve gold leaf soufflés or Wagyu beef. It served comfort food stews, fresh bread, roasted chicken. The owner was a young woman named Mia Collins. She was busy behind the counter, laughing as she poured coffee. At the best table by the window, 2 women sat. One was older, with short hair that was growing back in grey curls. She looked tired, but her eyes were bright. Preston Halloway was learning to live again, learning to trust the world outside of a locked room. Across from her sat Jade. She looked different. Her cheeks had colour. Her arms resting on the table looked strong. She was painting again. The bistro's walls were covered in her art. "Here we go," Mia said, placing a steaming bowl in front of Jade. "Potato and leek soup," Jade teased. "It's the house specialty," Mia winked. "On the house." Jade picked up her spoon. She didn't hesitate. She ate with joy. Mia walked back to the kitchen, pausing to look at the framed photo near the register. It was a picture of an older woman in Ohio standing outside a rehab center, holding a 1-year sobriety chip. Mia's mum was clean. Catherine was free. Jade was healthy. The billionaire had lost his fortune, his reputation, and his freedom. But in this small, warm restaurant, the waitress who had $3 to her name had built something money couldn't buy. she had built a family. And this time everyone had a seat at the table. From a starvation strike to a prison break, Jade and Mia proved that the strongest hunger isn't for food, it's for the truth. Preston Halloway thought he could buy silence and bury his secrets. But he forgot the most important rule of the kitchen. Sooner or later, everything comes out in the wash. It turns out the poor waitress was the only one rich enough in spirit to save the billionaire's daughter. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel. And if you want more stories about secrets, revenge, and unexpected heroes, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. What would you have done if you were Mia, taken the money and ran or stayed to fight? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next story.